in 3 rounds per best of 5. That can theoretically be something like 5 to 6 hours. I think we're gonna be here today. We're gonna be kind of switching over between the matches, how we're gonna be able to catch them, and yeah, well, maybe at the end, if there's gonna be like one remaining, somebody's already casting it, we're not gonna be bothering with it. But yes, otherwise, in between, just gonna picking up the games where we can. By the way, winner of this match is gonna be playing against El Matador. El Matador is waiting in the second round. So is Mosca, Avely, Tunison, and well, Aztecs right now as well, kind of. No, nonetheless, of course, you're gonna be having some specific rules for the tournament. It is Jaguar Joust, so therefore it is basically like a post-release tournament for the Aztecs. Still having the slowdown, right? Yeah, okay, so it's gonna be a bit better. No, and we are going to be heading into the first game here of the best of 5. It will be Mirage we are playing upon. And well, as I said, the rules, we are gonna having to be playing plenty of Aztecs. In the first 2 games, I think the players have to be picking Aztecs at least once, something along those lines. And then, well, it kinda depends what they're gonna be picking after. So nonetheless, plenty of Aztecs we should be seeing. So you do have Illuminati right now performing with Standard Zeus. He's gonna be there for starting strong in here. Of course, a great civilization for water as always. Safe gold mine also be on the base. No, and on the other side of the map, we are going to be there for having Dexito playing with that Huitzilopochtli, right? I'm just gonna be struggling with the names for a bit still. Huitzilopochtli, yes. Huitzilopochtli, Tezcatlipoca, and Quetzalcoatl. It's gonna be probably like the easiest. Quetzalcoatl, Tezcatlipoca, and Huitzilopochtli. Okay. So, I'm gonna be also kind of curious because I haven't seen games on water. We have seen on Wednesday when we were looking at Aztecs, we got some 2 pretty good games with all 3 major gods. First was a mirror between Punkstar and Darthnox, civilization mirror, different gods. And then we have seen some excellent performance by Recon. It was in some fun times. And by the way, I don't think actually Recon is participating. Yeah, because he didn't actually fulfill the requirements of the 50 games. I'm not entirely certain why that was actually in there. Looks like very much what Recon was also mentioning on the Discord, that it just simply so that certain people have something to stream. Well, that's a kind of weak thing, but nonetheless, might be very much true in there. Because the number is absolutely excessive. Usually we're gonna be having like 10 games or 20 maximum or whatnot. But 50 is kinda extreme. It's kinda like supposed to be also motivating to be posting recorded games and streaming your POV, because that's basically like doubling your numbers in there. So there is some kind of logic beyond that, but frankly, now when the game has been like officially abandoned tournament-wise, there really any kind of point in pushing it as much. Maybe that could have been useful like, I don't know, a few months ago. But nonetheless, that is the reality, and that is why we are having players that we are having here in the tournament. But nonetheless, we have seen also some really great strategy by Recon in that game, so I'm hoping that we're gonna be seeing the Obsidian butterflies nonsense really all around, because that was just like super broken. So looking forward somebody actually applying it in important matches, as you're gonna be apparently advancing with Huitzi into Malinal Xochitl. My brain is having a very much like a hard time not shortening things. Malinal Xochitl, so I need to be just gonna read in everything. Yeah, well, that's gonna be taking some time before you're gonna be getting used to it properly. But nonetheless, quite a defensive temple in here. But yeah, the meta is just like up in the air, what the players are gonna be actually, and what have they figured out in the past week. What kind of maybe possible ideas they could be going for. Can see the warrior priest can be turning into T something. There is an ash in there as well, but I'm gonna be having to see the name again for properly knowing that. You can see all the economical upgrades for the Athena advance in Illuminati, who is going to be pretty quick, 415. Can say now Malinal is gonna be already at 349, so pretty quick attack. And well, which means spy, and much more importantly, we are gonna be there for turning into the beast here or not. Ah yeah, we are. Get another priest in here, so we probably will somewhere soon. No, and apparently we're gonna be therefore casting right now the aggressive scorpions, as we have already seen, cast even defensively, because you can just kinda control the scorpions anyway. So this, yeah, very much reminds me of nonsenses with something like a Shifting Sands. Quite nice attempt to wall him actually in. Shifting Sands, nonsenses with Set, but nonetheless Bolt is gonna be making pretty good sense in here. Yeah, I'm thinking it's gonna be an excellent help. Second priest though is already in place, so Dexito was expecting that and well aware. As you can see right now, the scorpions are going to be kind of dead game. They did do something, but it feels like it maybe not entirely as enough. Interesting animation for the throwing of the snake in there. But looks like it so far Illuminati is probably gonna be able to defend this. Alright. It's gonna be still, it's not gonna be easy, but feels like it maybe he might be able to do so. However, the problem is you don't have entirely any kind of further units. You certainly need to be right now getting the heroes into action. Heracles is getting made. Jason, well, he already died somewhere a bit earlier, it seems like. Probably here in the fights, I just didn't entirely properly notice him. As the scorpion infested nest, still gonna be having half a lifespan in there. So that's gonna be resulting into quite a few more scorpions still helping out in here. However, distraction right now, Heracles is up. Heracles should be definitely focusing on the Quetzalcoatl and the Scorpion. Okay, at least one of them right about now is gonna be dead guy. Oh, the warrior piece. So therefore, it's a bit interesting because it seems like it's therefore not entirely worth it to turn him. At least it seems like Dexito is thinking so. Now that's the real question. I'm always pronouncing him Dexito, but he's actually Mexican. So is it supposed to be Dexito? That is the real question. I think in today's age you can't be entirely certain that it's gonna be like the sh. But there's some kind of real like an idea there in my opinion. But looks like the defense is successful at this point. Probably gonna be continuing with the X in there because it's gonna be more of a modern thing. Who knows what kind of connection it's going to be having. As you can see right now, so far 5 fishing boats, decent economy. And by the way, we are gonna be at, well, only 0.55. No improvement economically. Otherwise, also Calpuli is not gonna be improved into any specific resource. Going for the gold probably wouldn't be entirely too useful, because you'll be losing some of the wood in there that he, well, I guess seems to be at this point needing still, because fishing boats and whatnot. The statistics here, 150 HP, almost non-existent melee resistance, which is gonna be making it quite a bit easier for the heroes to deal with it. That's, I guess, gonna be the purpose in there as well. But at the same time, the heroes are doing divine damage, so into the myth units, it's not gonna be entirely too relevant, I guess. No, and there is right about now the triplet. That actually reminds me. Can you actually delete it and get in that spawn as well? Basically, like expediting it. I'm hoping that's actually kind of like taken care of and it's not possible. But I would be interested if maybe that would be a thing. Definitely something to test. Otherwise, pierce resistance fine, and bonus against myth units. That's interesting. It's really helpful actually in the early game. Heroes half, of course, and villages 0.1, so it's basically like the snakes now. Not gonna be entirely able to do too much to the villages, but there's at least a bit of a help with the divine damage. Yeah, can say it about now additional 12.5 damage. But the divine, that is pretty useful. So therefore the multipliers and negators are gonna be pretty useful in there. That actually is a bit interesting because you are having the therefore decrease of the damage in there. And I wonder if it also accounts for the poison, if the poison is like a completely different thing. So not entirely all that straightforward. No, nonetheless, second TC right now coming up. You have overreaction, I'm thinking, by Illuminati, but either he has seen some strategies with extra dogs early, or maybe just kinda wasn't entirely certain if something isn't going to be coming up. Also second TC attempted by Dexito, but how about maybe the village is currently sent back, but I guess he doesn't want to be right now having the fight there. As it looks like it all the way to the right, we are going to be therefore going for first Blood Pact, but much more importantly, it's gonna be right now also covered by the restoration in here. But yeah, the power of the warrior priest is actually fairly strong. Unfortunately, he was a bit too late in here, and the TC is finished anyway, so minus the villagers. Appreciate the idea, but he was a bit too slow in there. And we are switching to ocelotls. which actually seemed pretty powerful, because they do have really high statistics in general for classical age, 155 HP. 4.5 speed, of course, is gonna be a bit decreasing that, but 35%. And the melee resistance is pretty good for classical age. That 15 on the pierce, that's obviously kind of normal. It's nothing entirely too problematic and bad. But looks like we're gonna be having some further complications on the TC here, also on the other side, as Dexito is also losing a villager, and it's gonna be apparently continuing here. That's... wow. Stealth in the middle of the desert. Good job on that, I guess, mechanism. But nonetheless, we are going to be at this point... or maybe was he getting activated by that little palm here? No, whatever the case. There we go. Getting, of course, our life force back. And we are having, what, 27 villages for Dexito. 33 for Killuminati. So already quite a nice edge. About 1/5 of the economy, 20% of the economy in there. As on the fishing, I think it seems like we are almost on a similar scale. No, looks to me that Killuminati is having all 9. And on the other side, probably as well. Looks like that it's gonna be all good. Ah, Spaceship-tla. That's what I was actually looking forward to seeing the name in there of. So, 330 HP. We are going to be having quite nice divine damage in there. Of course, also the area damage in here. But, as you can see, it does have a bit of a timer in there. No, but the Yasan is gonna be a bit faster in here. 5.3, 4.3. Which is a bit curious because you can say about now the speed is certainly there for Spaceship-tla. However, he is having a bit of a problem properly catching up, as the animation is taking a long time, and that's just like a general, not to say, don't want to say like a problem in Age of Mythology, but it's definitely a feature. It's very often mitigating the kind of like the delay that you have and slowness after getting hit by for the units. But the Dionysus is gonna be right now starting there for Killuminati, as he's getting also the tower upgrade, military wise though. Can see Killuminati not entirely having too many things, but wow. Okay, somebody's serious about archers. Yeah, that's not even hard as. So yeah, I guess Novel against the Ocelotl is making sense. I mean, like Hippaspis are gonna be no kinda okay. But it's gonna be still tricky in my opinion, because the hit points are really large. Melee resistance is solid. So while you do have decent bonus on the hippies, no, they're gonna be quite a bit low hit point compared to that. So actually the archers might be really the better choice. At the same time, 1.6 attack speed is gonna be putting it to 12. So it seems impressive, but in reality it's not as much. It is not entirely as mucho. No, and well, I guess it's gonna maybe time to have a look at some economical upgrades. I think we should be having still the first level, yes. That was done very early in the game. And you can see, Novel could have been looking at the upgrades prequeued, getting first line for the armory upgrades, medium archers, Sultan for immediately. And interesting that he's actually getting Dionysus, because if he's going heavy for the archers, then Sunray from Apollon would have been really good. He's gonna be playing for the bronze. Otherwise, the opposition therefore is gonna be going for it's Papalotl, so yes, we're gonna be going for the Obsidian Butterflies. I'm hoping you're gonna be seeing how stupidly broken they are. They have seen that in the game on Wednesday by Recon against Jack 90. If you haven't seen the game, I've already posted it on my YouTube, so it's in that big video with Aztec Tech 3, and it's at the end, chapters. So you're gonna be able to find it if you're interested only in that. That wasn't really great showcase of something really broken. I'm expecting to be seen a lot today. If there has been some kind of sharing. And Eagle Warriors are coming up. No, and they are practically peltasts. I'm not entirely certain if they have an actually bonus against archers. We'll see soon enough. Once you get some. Okay, but he must be not housed. There's the butterfly, there is the Eglos. Yes, 1.5 against archers. I mean, like 11 damage, but nonetheless, again, they attack kind of slow. It's a bit of a shtick here for the Aztecs. A lot of their units, or several of their units are attacking a bit slower. Now, nonetheless, archers are gonna be in, and let's take the fight, because very soon you're not gonna be able to do so too much. Once you're gonna be right now filled with the eagles. It's a bit interesting actually right about now, division. And oh yes, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, he's getting the kills. Exactly on the line. Excellently. Yeah, that's exactly what I was mentioning when we were talking about the tech tree. This is something that's gonna be broken on plenty of occasions. If you're gonna be casting it well and into the path of the enemy army, those 5 seconds, not entirely enough within Age of Mythology to escape. Maybe for some fast cavalry, but infantry, goodbye. That was a good casting by Dexito. Instant help in here. However, maybe he could have been, of course, waiting for a bit later still. At this point, he just needs to be applying the pressure, though, and not gonna camp around, because he has demolished the whole enemy force. And now he's doing nothing. Come on. That's not how you do this. Time to collect right about now. It's kind of funny. That's actually something like in Diablo 4. In Diablo 4, how you are collecting the souls. Kind of like the soul shards in there. In certain quests. That's basically similar. I'm guessing that's where it's gonna be coming from. Very likely. There's inspiration here for the devs. No, nonetheless, we are going to be getting millions of upgrades still though here. Obsidian Nepean. That's gonna be there for increase the attack of units trained at the noble's hut. Making eagles even better. Flint weapons. Feathered armor. That's gonna be the first armory upgrade line. And also getting bowsaw here. Never getting bowsaw. I wonder how they would be getting bowsaw. I mean, like, actually, what kind of saws they were even having, because again, they didn't have really iron smelting too much. And, like, the other metals are not entirely suitable for such a hard work, so... They would have to be having some kind of, like, I don't know, flint axes probably only. I'm legitimately curious if actually Aztecs and the Mesoamericans were having saws. It's legit some kind of interesting feature there. Maybe it could be worthwhile look at on some kind of Google and Wikipedia and whatnot. But nonetheless, we have the first siege weapons. So therefore, the Otontin smashers in here. With the armies, 48.99. You can see it now, of course, the eagles right now from the south. Yeah, they're gonna be doing excellently. And it's gonna be probably right now hard to play with for Dexido. So far, of course, he seems to be not entirely focusing. Oh, right now he can be. Yeah, he should have been going a bit more deeper into them and unleashing the power. Because the strength of the butterflies is in the fact that they are flyers, and therefore they can get atop the units they want to be using the special attack upon. So therefore it's a bit different than, for example, Avengers that can be getting only into melee proximity. Those guys can be getting above. So therefore, if you have a group, simply some group of grouped villages all together on some kind of gold or hunt or whatever, you can kill them really quickly and effectively. No, nonetheless, that was right about now somewhat of a decent attack, and Jesus man, those eagles look pretty good. As if peltas weren't already actually warning enough how counter archers can be problematic. But at least the TC survived, barely, but it did. So congratulations to Kilominati on that. I guess as we are already getting mythical age into Mictlantecuhtli, because I'm not entirely certain if the TL is always supposed to be like, because it's not tiller, but it's kind of like the sound is supposed to be. But I'm not entirely certain if it's always even like in the middle of the words, because it's incredibly hard to pronounce when it's in the middle and it's not like ashlot, where it's like at the end it's making sense to me, but in the middle I'm not really certain about it. Just basically takes practice probably. But yeah, I'm thinking I'm just gonna be combining it, how it just kind of rolls over the tongue. It kind of doesn't. So how it's gonna be coming to me, so sorry for... And to all the Mexicans and Mesoamericans for mispronunciation on these. These are kind of hard when you are not used to it. But you can see on the armies therefore, 92 versus 60. 150 for the second casting of the Purge. When I was talking about it during the tech tree analysis, that I was saying that it needs to be really expensive because that is a broken power if used well. And I'm still holding that it is. But at the same time, I'm entirely certain what it's gonna be there for the rate of the favor gathering here for the Aztecs. Haven't gotten as much of a feel for that just yet. So you're gonna be having to wait about it and see. But nonetheless, Mythical Age into Hephaestus is also coming here for Zeus. Frankly, wouldn't it be much more interesting to be getting Lightning Storm? Maybe. 114. I mean, like, they're not entirely super cheap. 75 wood, 45 gold. That is some kind of cost compared to Peltas, for example, who is 60-20. Used to be in the original, is it still the same? 70-25, actually a bit more expensive, so a bit more gold on the eagle, which kind of fits with the AoE 2 version. Though of course there they are melee unit, but nonetheless, the damage is not terrible, resistances are nice, but especially the hit points are a bit of a concern for me. No, nonetheless, it's gonna be for a bit of a thing here, and we need a lot more siege boys here. Okay, gonna be immediately having Volcano. Not gonna be as OP as it was, as of course the patch has hit yesterday, or the day before on Thursday. So it used to be a lot more powerful. At this point it's gonna be doing what exactly? Not much actually. So have we kind of like over-nerfed the god power the same as with Flood? If you remember, Flood after release was completely broken. But then they nerfed it, and I'm really thinking it's just weak. It really needs to be buffed in my opinion, long term. And well, has the Volcano right now suffered similar fate? Not entirely certain so far. But as you can see, it's not as completely destructive as it used to be. Which I guess is gonna be just as good. Alright, that seems to be the battle not entirely heading anywhere too much. So all the way topside, we are going to be probably able to deal with the problems here, as I'm loving the owl. It's kind of funny how it actually walks around and everything. Kind of maybe one of my favorite myth units at this point in the expansion, or in the DLC, but seems like this is gonna be there for goodbye for Illuminati's fortifications in here. No, and maybe kind of like the win percentages rather for the Aztecs, as right after release are getting a bit more normalized here, as people of course learned how to play them a bit better. They get some build orders and everything, so basically not gonna be like a done deal yet, because you can see now economy 84-91, it's pretty solid for both players still. Nobody really liking and being behind too much, as you have also 3 TCs for both. 235 population limit here for Illuminati, because he's gonna be having 45 TC. Now even getting architects, and of course, after the Fortune of Olympus, all the goodies from the armory. Whereas on the other side, we are getting obsidian weapons. I don't know if it's like the second or the third. No, based on the cost, it's gonna be the last one. It's gonna be the last iron, practically. A variant. Hiding in the stealth in there for a bit. No, and we're gonna be therefore switching into the Jaguars. And well, are those females actually gonna be right now jumping, for example, even into the Peltas in there? Because that would be somewhat useful. But so far they seem to be doing somewhat alright here. The statistics for them are pretty high HP, pretty decent attack as well, and resistances, not even talking about those. So nicely done, as okay. Can't say it now, Kuinametsin is gonna be throwing stone here, so it's somewhat like a rock giant. The animation is kind of wonky a bit, but whatever. It's not entirely too problematic here, but it seems like the Jaguars with the support in here are just gonna clean in Illuminati's army pretty well. We need to be definitely getting something against raiders in here, so I guess it has to be Hoplites now, since he's in infantry. And he didn't really make any kind of cavalry before. But yeah, looks like it's gonna be there for right now. Somewhat of a done deal here, at least temporarily. No, 46 versus 97. Still does have some chance, of course, to replace the losses, as we are getting some of the last upgrades in here. Even the Sarissa wasn't entirely expecting, I guess, to be yet in the Hoplites interaction. But the Q is also pretty solid for Dexito, who has finished upgrading the farms. As that's also something a bit specific with the Aztecs. So you don't have the mythical upgrade for them, but you do have a castle H1, or rather heroic H1 that is more expensive, basically covering both at once. So that's a bit of a curious twist in them, that you have to be a bit thinking about. So otherwise, quite nice deployment of villages on further gold by Illuminati. Trying to keep it right now a bit more under control with the wall-in. And look at the heavy Q here for Dixito. What is he getting? A Micteca? Oh, that's the short ones, okay. Then it's gonna be the last armor and also ceremonial shields. Yeah, that's gonna be the same situation. And also champion nobles at soldiers, alright. No, nonetheless, and yes, I was just kind of wondering also on Wednesday if therefore the Jaguars are changing based on the upgrades, and yes, they are. Because you can see right now the picture, and we have seen before, They were on the classic spotted ones, but right now they are going into the Panthers in here. The Black Boys. But we're gonna be having all the upgrades already right now for Bloom. Because right now everything that can be done has already been done. So, as the Hoplites are gonna be at this point nicely kind of blocking and tanking some of the Eagles. So they're gonna be right now helping out maybe against the Archers. The jumping around at this point, Jaguars seem to be doing rather well in here anyway. And this almost reminds me of Extended Edition, if you remember when the Chinese were released and you would be having the White Tiger. And he was also the jumping unit, like with the first jumping unit in there properly, no, after Bellerophon of course. And well, that was all kinds of broken and he was getting just like constantly stuck somewhere and something. But at least that is working properly on Retold. Nonetheless, seems like right about now, therefore Illuminati is gonna be bit breaking through. Okay, quite a heavy queue still for Exito, so he's not entirely off the game too much. However, you can see the resources are not entirely overflowing too seriously by anybody and for anybody. As he's gonna be also switching into trade for Illuminati. And seems like that, well, we have probably chosen quite a tight match in here for our first experience, but damn. Those Eagles, they just melt in the infantry here. They really are. I mean, like 38% melee resistance is no joke. Can see right now 173 Hoplites, of course, hit points, half melee in there. Pierce for them is what, 44? 120 hit points indeed for the Eagles. I'm really thinking that the Eagles, I was gonna say it already before, I'm really thinking that they are gonna bust it. Okay, kinda halfway escaped. Did manage to right now protect this base. That's gonna be another fairly important piece of the god power in there. Of the Purge. That's gonna able to force the opponents off a certain position. 24 range. It's like a catapult, right? It's gonna be pretty similar to something like that. But whatever the case, we are going to be at this point just like really, the Hoplites have no chance in here against the Eagles. They're just like destroying everything that comes into their power and strength. Just seems like that we need maybe a bit more siege weapons there, for a bit more of those rock throwers for the Exito. So that he can be like a bit more reasonably assaulting some kind of fortifications here to the top, for example. And well, also will be interesting to see. There is right about now the Quetzalcoatl caravan coming up. I was looking forward to seeing those as well finally. And seems like this is gonna be there for the game to feature and focus all of that. 100 villages right now for Illuminati. The Exito is gonna be at 90, but soon he should be reaching there for the full numbers as well. Wow, 18. 18 villages praying for Illuminati. I'm appreciating that, because that's gonna be meaning no either he can be getting another bronze, so of course right now restoration. So he does have plenty of options, and of course Zeus, he should be really focusing on plenty favor in the late game. And I'm kind of curious if maybe we could be seeing even a Titan possibly, because this game definitely seems like a stalemate. Okay, Calpulion to Livestock Pen. This maybe could be already replaced for a closer one, and could be getting also bonus on the wood on those. Okay, kinda cool farms. And we are having Calpulion to Livestock Pen. Yes, he was gonna change it now. No, well, but it seems like right now the Zeus is gonna be the one trying to maybe like now push into the bases a bit, because this TC is fairly exposed. Well, it could be useful to be having some great temple nearby for the protection again and extra. And well, we do have apparently right now the stun warrior action here. It seems to be somewhat-ish working. The Eagles definitely need to be focusing a lot more against right now what is here to the top side. Yeah, that's not entirely what was happening. He was a lot more focusing up on the heroes, for example. So he wasted a lot of damage in that Exito, and that's something that might very easily right now cost him the game. It seems that Illuminati has finally gotten into the groove, and he has gotten the fight and kind of like mixture of units that he needed. No, and now he can also just be fancy about it. Oh yeah, just gonna cast the bronze somewhere. But evidently not gonna be needed anymore, as the first game after almost half an hour of engagement, well, it's right now coming for Mr. Illuminati. So a good start, but this match, since it's also best of 5, is definitely promising to be still having quite a story to it. So let us therefore have a look into the upgrades. You should be having all of them. This was just as a trade unit that's gonna be confusing me, because Looking like a village or a unit, of course. Obsidian weapons, sacred armor, and sacred shields. This is the last ones, if I'm not mistaken. All kinds of fancy upgrades there as well. Then for the opponents, of course, Forge of Olympus, gonna be making sure that we have everything that we need. Now, and for the villagers, you can see right now the upgrades are gonna be in. All of them, besides carpenters. And it's right now still missing. Well, axolotls were around here. They are amphibious, both of them, right? Naval myth unit. Or is it just the mutant is amphibious? Yeah, just the mutant is actually amphibious, okay. So this guy could have been taken into the fights in there. The other, of course, just gonna take in up space. So you have right now Porcine, and that reminds me, do we have Salt Amphora? Thinking we do, right? Yeah, we do. Hey. Okay, so you're just gonna forgot an upgrade in there. Unfortunate. On the other side, we are having, you can say now Salt Amphora in place, 1.1. You can easily tell by that. And for the villagers, that's gonna be missing actually flat control and carpenters both. So could have been going still a bit better. 4.6 does have coinage. No, and well, for the floating, we already see he was getting a bit higher gold here, Killuminati on his account, since, yeah, he started with the trade quite a bit earlier. So therefore, GG for the first game, and let's have a look into the statistics. Idles, kinda all over the place here. No, that is pretty high for Dexito, unfortunately. That's gonna be, no, hundreds of resources, maybe even thousands. Oh, thousands. Oh, yeah, maybe. It was a long game. Illuminati, also something, but a bit more modest than his opponent. Civilian numbers, that's including, of course, right now the fishing boats. There was a bit of an edge for blue, of course, at the start, since he also had the second TC. Sorry for the click in there. A bit earlier, but not entirely by much here in the end. Just maybe like here, a bit of a peel off. But yes, the fishing economy was started faster by Illuminati and a bit more thoroughly. Dexito was focusing a bit more on the early push. You can see kind of long-term bit of an edge. You could say for blue. For the army, a bit stable actually for red. A lot more interesting ups and downs for Dexito, from Dexito's opponent from Illuminati. Has the Purge. That was a decent one. Unfortunately, pretty much unable to be using it in any kind of way. Dexito in there. But this one was a bit scary for the blue player. But again, not enough siege weapons or siege units to really do anything lasting to the enemy base. So you can see the LA economy is of course gonna be influenced by the lack of fishing boats for Dexito. So the direct comparison maybe between civilizations is not gonna be too relevant. But as you can see, you're just gonna growing constantly. 2,200 resources here at 14.5 minutes, though isn't entirely too high. That's not too terrible. There's this right about now, some 4,500 in here at 23 minutes. So it is an edge, even with most of the upgrades, but again, I'm missing Salt Amphora in there, some upgrades on the other side. No. I think especially the trade is going to be responsible at this point for the lead at the end by 11,400 for Illuminati. 7,000 more gold. Same-ish favor though. That is very interesting because Illuminati was having like near to 20 villages on favor for the past minutes. And as a Zeus on top of it, he's barely having more favor than Dexito. Looks like that actually Aztecs aren't too badly off on the favor. Okay, right now the unit skilled, he managed to get plenty of the extra economy for Illuminati. Well, apparently into the meat grinder. But it was necessary. You can see upgrades pretty nice. And, well, they were just gonna keep in tabs of their timings pretty nicely. GG. So that's therefore put Illuminati one ahead. And apparently second game, Obsidian Rich. Well then, so Obsidian Ridge is gonna be upon us. That's gonna be there for the new map. That is, yo, that's the defensive one. Okay. Alright. So that's the one where you're gonna be having somewhat of a curious safety C here. Obviously, siege weapons from like the outside and inside and outside are gonna be able to attack it, but yeah, this is just gonna like asking for some kind of 3 TC boom nonsense, right? So, for the gods, we are going to be right now with Illuminati starting with Isis. He still, by the way, hasn't chosen an Aztec. He has to be playing there for Aztec in the 3rd game at minimum. And for the opposing player, he's gonna be there for having a Hades in there. So, no Aztec game at this point, but on an Aztec map, it seems like you're gonna be having some alpacas as the hunting animals. Bit of a shame you can't be getting the wool from them, I guess. But yeah, there we go. Killing them early, so therefore some kind of slight loss to the decay, but it has been quite a bit slowed down. Fairly soon after release of Retold, if I'm not mistaken, like a few months after. No, and for some relics, we haven't entirely had even a look on those. In the last game, Shennong's Ochre Whip, theoretically interesting, as you have also right now Kithara of Apollo, and that is, of course, pretty nice. Anacondas, 100 food on them. Interesting how they are like slithering on the spot in there. But nonetheless, that's not gonna be basically anything all that dangerous. It's something like a wolf's, but since they don't attack anymore automatically, most of the times on Retold, then maybe some kind of further food in there. Hermes wing sandals, also pretty nice. And the last one, somewhere here topside on the relics, it's gonna be Anvil of Hephaestus. And it's gonna be right now having gold research cost off. The upgrades getting lowered, and that is actually pretty important. Okay, right about now, do something here quick. No, and well, let's therefore maybe see what kind of advances we're gonna be heading into, because 237, on the other side we have a temple already and gathering for the Vaults of Erebus. Simas on the other side we should be of course having Flood of Denial, I'm not entirely certain if it was already taken or not, but whatever the case, probably not, looking at of course what we currently have on account. So otherwise you're gonna be having somewhat of a forward gold mine. Really with the choice of the civilizations, I'll be very surprised if this was somewhat attacky game. Really feels it's gonna be more of a, at minimum, 2nd TC. Wonder if it's gonna be super greedo into 3rd. I'm very much curious about that. It's gonna be easy defense, easy this TC. Obviously when you have also the gold mine next to it. I mean, like, that's gonna be a tricky part, of course, since archers from about here are gonna be able to shoot down. But at the same time, it's still, since you can't be getting anything melee into it, I don't think it's gonna be as much of a major problem, especially for example looking at this gold mine here to the right. That is superbly excellent here for Illuminati. And for the opposition, same situation, really, I can say it now in the middle in here. It's almost impossible to get to in any kind of early stages of the game. Otherwise, well, maybe just also wanted to be having a look at what kind of matches currently are being also streamed elsewhere. Thinking it's gonna be probably still the same as Einar is doing his POV versus, I think he is doing versus Isomarto. Ice Machine is also doing that same match as a POV. They are the same players. Boyd is, well, he was doing the Punk Star, right, match? Yes. He's doing Punk Star versus Super Saiyan. It doesn't seem like that there was any kind of switch and any kind of new streamer or caster, so we should be fine in here with our match. Because I would be liking to cover just something that is not streamed elsewhere to be having some more diversity overall. But so far it's interesting that Dexito actually, as he's already through here, he's not entirely thinking about all that much of a, like any kind of defensive. You can see he's not preparing any walls whatsoever. Again, that's probably not much of a point, so I'm kind of like liking what Illuminati is doing, but at the same time, it really feels like it's not going to be entirely all that necessary here, specifically to be rushing it. The 2nd TC is coming up, of course. There we are, and, well, we're gonna be having to wait until some kind of real activity is going to be taking place here. Bit of an interesting choice for Illuminati to be going through Anubis. But I've been certainly expecting that since it's gonna be somewhat of an echo game, that Bust would be a better choice. Not much of a need for the Anubite here. At the same time, the Anubite is gonna be maybe making a sense from the point of view, as you can see, he's getting also feet of the Jackal, that you can be jumping down the cliffs and up the cliffs. So maybe, if you actually can though, and I'm certain if it's not gonna be like too far away, until I'm actually 100% certain how that engine is gonna be handling it. But theoretically I can see some kind of logic in it. Might be somewhat there. It will be also a bit tricky right now to be placing enough farms around it. Well, I'm kind of hoping that he just couldn't place it any further. We'll see if he's gonna be placing it with some kind of normal shift click upon the TC. Then you don't probably have to be worried about it too much. Hopefully the AI is gonna be doing it properly and smartly kind of. But it seems like it's gonna be maybe only 2 TC plays so far. So you're gonna be heading for the hunt outside. It's gonna be some classic deer in here. Not entirely only just llamas. It's a bit interesting how the music actually stopped playing completely some time ago. Seems to be a bit of a almost slightly weird silence in here. But apparently it's a thing. Plow, yes, needs to be coming up as soon as possible here for the Isis and on the other side of the map. So we are gonna be right now on the gold. No. Begs the question if maybe we didn't and couldn't be building just like one storehouse here somewhere. Yeah, that really feels to me that he should have been building only one somewhere in between. But sometimes in Retold it's actually kind of hard to be properly placing them, because they have kind of like some kind of auto placement partially. So that's why we're gonna be seeing all kinds of maybe far away storehouses and stuff and mining camps and yeah. Sometimes it's not entirely the fault of the players as much. But I'm loving currently the scouting from blue. If you're gonna be right now looking into his point of view, then you can see he's gonna be having practical vision on almost half of the map. As you can see also there are gonna be millions of the gold mines, especially right now to the top side. That's a bit funny, because you can see right now all the way to the bottom we have absolutely nothing. You have just some kind of extra food in here, with the berries and mostly the snakes, so it's not like the highs, but it's at least something I guess. But the gold all the way to the top is kinda curious. Of course can be also somewhat walled off if you're gonna be right now able to claim it somehow early. There's the colored turkeys in here. And yeah. That's kind of course more of a, at this point, the reason for maybe Illuminati to be taking the top TC a bit earlier. And then when you're gonna be able to get some migdals somewhere here, for example, then suddenly you're gonna be able to control maybe all of the gold mines on the map. Seems like that could be a thing. Okay, easy kill right now by the sentinels. But nonetheless, economically, as you can see, we're gonna be there for getting, we have right a pickaxe and husbandry, and next is gonna be only on the way for Dexito. For Illuminati, pickaxe is also in place, and it's gonna be also plow. On top of it, the Guitar of Apollo for the movement speed, whereas, as you can tell, the advances are already underway, and it's gonna be Aphrodite halfway through for Dexito so far. Interesting choice going for the Aphrodite here again. But because I'm kind of thinking that maybe Underworld Passage right next to the TCs also could be having some strength in it. Well, maybe for somebody like a Zeus more than the others. Hard to say. But well, as you can tell, Illuminati is gonna be wanting to advance through Sobek. And the distance, it's going to be there in like almost a minute. It's not entirely too horrible, I guess. Not too much of a huge difference here for anybody. Okay, so armory coming up as well. So far, military At least like one's barracks, but I guess he's gonna be a bit more wanting to rely upon the Migdol. And look at the barracks actually there, so maybe not. Huh. That's an interesting side build. I guess he's gonna be trying to maybe, like, not lay claim to the TC necessarily, but having some kind of power to at least annoy it and the gold mine. Maybe it's gonna be a thought, but I'm absolutely loving how actually Illuminati is right now trying to completely scout the map. You can see he's right now seeing 3/4 of the map practically. Nicely played. And that's exactly what people should be doing with Egyptians. And it doesn't matter if you're gonna be Isis or not. Isis, obviously, yes, that's the discount, so sure, cool. But with the others, it's gonna be also quite a bit viable. So any kind of easy vision like this, sure, costs a bit of gold, but the vision is kind of priceless in Age of Mythology or any kind of map and any kind of game. That's going to be, of course, having Fog of War. Alright, so that's gonna be the Anubites. Not entirely, of course, able to do too much here, but they're gonna be still somewhat of a help down the line, as apparently we are getting prepared for heavy infantry here for Dexito. So I'm assuming some kind of Hoplites, or Hoplites, rather probably Hippaspis, are gonna be somewhat of a feature very soon. As for the opposition, that's gonna be the Migdol. Nice preparation for the whole forward build in here, which, well, obviously is not gonna be including the gold. It's a bit interesting, therefore he's choosing the south side instead of maybe trying to attack from the top, but yeah, I'm really thinking it's gonna have to be doing with that TC and the overall position here. Siege works ×2 actually. And the barracks apparently are coming into spearmen. No, well, I guess the spearmen are gonna be abandoned pretty quickly because, again, we don't have any kind of cavalry. And it doesn't seem like there's gonna be any kind of plan for that either. As it seems like it's gonna be combination with elephants here for Illuminati for the moment. And apparently even just a straight Hephaestus for Dexito. I'm just gonna try to think at this point if this map, if there's gonna be some kind of opportunity for good early aggro. But I just kinda don't entirely see it because the TC is protected as they are. I'm thinking that like most people are gonna be defaulting therefore to the easier way to play this. But it almost kinda feels like it is maybe meant for the Aztecs. Because the Aztecs, when they have the jumping attacks with, for example, even the Ocelotls early in the classical age, then maybe they just kinda like meant to be jumping down here and abusing therefore the enemy economy this way. And then wonder if they're gonna be able to jump up. Feels like that it maybe should be a bit too high, but I'm not entirely certain how the mechanism works. But feels like it's gonna be maybe something they had in mind, the depths, when they were making this map. Because otherwise it would be just, I don't know, kind of stupidly defensive. No, finally gonna be also having some music, even if it's gonna be only for the battle here. As well for the army, 16 only for Dexito. Needs to be getting something fast here, and it's gonna be a group of Hoplites. Could be probably useful to be having at least a few Hippaspis to help out against the enemy infantry, but well, they're gonna be able to hold their own pretty nicely against Spearmen too. Hephaestus almost done, but that is actually a fairly significant portion of siege towers at this point. It might be really hard for Dexito to defend in here. As you can see, Illuminati is gonna be right now going for the first line of upgrades. Why are we completely lack of position here and not protecting the siege towers at all? Come on, Illuminati. No, the snakes were definitely above. The locust was definitely nice because there was like a bit of a choke point that they were probably going to come through. So, frankly, locusts were fairly well cast. Snakes were extra, there was a necessary, and the restoration, I guess sure, why not, that's gonna be some kind of little help in here. So unfortunately a few farms have been also destroyed in there, but that's gonna be probably the least of the worries for Dexito, I'm thinking. Alright. No, we just gonna need to be getting rid of the Colossus somehow, because so far he is the one who is keeping this pretty much alive here and going. With the curse done, and that will not entirely be doing us super much. Maybe at least some kind of help against exactly the destroyers, or against the siege towers, because he's gonna be losing some units blocking them. No, and 2 elephants are not gonna be enough in here, even with their bonus against the buildings. So that's that, but nonetheless the damage has been done. No, and now it's definitely up to Dexito to start repairing as soon as possible, with at least like 1 or 2 villagers. That really should be happening. And now the damage is gonna spread out for Illuminati. But of course the more serious problem is going to be that if he's not gonna be able to maintain right now the position and the pressure, he's gonna be of course very soon facing the opponent getting more and more upgrades on his line. He's already getting the bronze in there from the Forge of Olympus. So the danger is kinda real that he might be actually getting pushed back sooner rather than later. Nonetheless, all the way to the top, nice little attempt by Killuminati to wall it all off, as it should be, because it's gonna be all the gold mines. And since, by the way, blue is practically controlling this through the presence in like the access part, we are gonna be down to practically just this gold, 2,500. The one in the base, now we have about 3,500 gold, by the way, left for the Exito. So he might be actually getting screwed here because of that. He might be having quite a serious challenge and problem for it. Can see Hendax and Pickaxe only for the economy. Unfortunately not repairing the TC, that is of course a major mistake. And then in Killuminati's base, full second level, that's nice. No mythical age for him. He's gonna seems to be at this point focusing everything upon the heroic age. No, that's gonna be getting trickier by the minute. Because of course, almost all iron, and that's gonna be hard to fight against for Killuminati. As you can see right now, he's having only the copper line, and that will be really felt on the battlefield almost instantaneously. But the army's sizes are at this point still in Killuminati's favor. You can see right now full pop limit at 200 for the opponent on entirely as much. And as you do have some 13 more villages for Killuminati, and on the armies about 30 more, so still doing well enough. Not well, the clock is ticking. Milaki doesn't have favor for any kind of casting of anything extra at this point, the hard ass, so not entirely needing it as much. I guess he's just gonna using it for the bit of healing here into the units. So that's gonna be at least gone anyway, and well, potentially gonna be opening some door to maybe some restoration down the line. You can see we have 70 favor almost, but only 3 villages spraying, so it'll be taking a long time before we really get somewhere. Loving even the second wall. I mean, like, it's excellent idea. So all the gold mines, they are actually extra, besides the one here to the bottom, and Killuminati is currently controlling everything. So where do we stand? Food line out, by the way, but then we do have 17 and about like 2,000 gold left for the red player. And again, still not repairing the TC. No, but frankly, looks like the TC is gonna be probably the least of his worries in just a moment. Most probably so. Need to be getting some cavalry into this. I mean, like, he's having plenty of peltas in here that are practically working excellently, especially if you manage to micro them well against the chariots. But maybe instead of the elephants, you could be using like a few camels. Even without the upgrades, you just need to be getting something that is a bit quick, and will be getting into the middle of the peltastenos, so that they are gonna be a bit confused who to attack, and they're not gonna be as efficient. Thinking that should be really taking place in here. Ah, Petsobex. Okay. Having only 2 monuments, but 88 favor though. 88 favor, so if he's gonna be able to get some for the gold, actually those might be a pretty good idea. Getting like, I don't know, 3-4 Petsobex, sorry, into the mix, they're gonna be pretty nice snipers. That could work. Watchtowers getting upgraded, masons. At this point it really seems like that Killuminati is not interested in the mythical age all that much. Currently he might be just gonna get in there around naturally, because of course full economy. And well, population limit almost reached. So he's just gonna be getting the resources accumulated in a moment too anyway. Should be just gonna send in the elephants a lot more into the peltas therefore, since we have seen that Dexito wasn't really microing them against the charioteers. That's a dangerous idea for it. Instead of actually getting the elephants into them, he's gonna be getting peltas into the elephants. Oh, that's... Jesus, that's a throw by Dexito. No, nonetheless, right now he's gonna be paying for the TC not being repaired for the past 5 minutes. So, goodbye. And no, that's actually goodbye right there for a whole game though, maybe. That is dangerously close to that, what he's actually done here, Dexito. No, well, consequences of course of your actions, that is what strategies are about. And well, much more importantly, there's gonna be also the TC through bottom, apparently it's fully claimed. Dexito hoping for the gold, well you can forget that, you having 400 gold left on the game. As well, unfortunately also didn't even manage to finish with the fortress, as due to excellent scouting by Killuminati, he is right now protecting everything that he needs to, he's doing it very well strategically. He's well covering the map and doing exactly what he needs to be doing. If you're gonna be switching into the scouting, he sees, by the way, like what is it, 4/5 of the map maybe? He sees everything. Even some funny rock at the back. Eating population limit practically. Would have been better to try and maybe sneak in with some priest into some monuments, or obelisks rather. But for the armies, you can see about 30 population limit more here for Killuminati, economy 20 more, but again, it's just gonna be breaking on the lack of gold here for Dexy. You can see now all bronze, so even without the mythical age, he's already fine, as he's attempting to be getting Osiris. Osiris, why? Just get Thoth, get the meteors and close it up. Osiris is not gonna be doing too much, he's not doing Myth Unit against you. I mean, like, theoretically Myth Units are gonna be the last resort for the Zeus, right? But Colossus is costing you gold. In the Heroic Age, he has advanced through Aphrodite. Oh, the Hades, not the Zeus. Not, well, not sure if I was saying Zeus in there. But nonetheless, Curse, that's gonna be the Main Alliance. Not entirely as much also helpful in here. He doesn't really have anything useful. They also costing gold, Minotaurs, so he just kinda can't. So at this point, should have been definitely Thoth. And getting Meteor got power into it, but it seems like nonetheless it's not gonna be mattering too much anyway. As the game is about to be right bad and in here still, as the gold is out, there's not much of a good way how to get any kind of way into gold, because you can't get even through the other side. You don't have any kind of teleport or transport here for the Hades, since you don't have Underworld Passage. And, well, maybe you can kill the TC with some kind of sneaky Petroboli, but doesn't definitely look that way, as Killuminati is holding it well in his hands. And this was the first experience, at least for me, with the Obsidian Ridge. And yes, it is exactly as... well... Can maybe see some kind of adjectives in there and use some adjectives for the map, but nonetheless it is a booming map for sure. This game has proven that the players are seeing the same. And the spawn of the golds to the top side on only one position that is easily blockable. No, Killuminati played it well. That's what we can say about this map. Blocking everything important. And he has a deserved victory. So therefore he's gonna be getting the first match point. Heavy Charioteers, all bronzed for the opposition. That's gonna be there for full Iron. Yes, it is. Of course, Sarissa there. No Aegis Shield. That's a bit interesting. Aegis Shield would be useful here, considering the Charioteers constantly. Economically, we have second levels. Oh, he didn't have Plow, right? Yeah. That's not great, of course. That's costing you tons of res. It's already 22 minutes. It was a long game still as well. And you can see second levels as well, but he wasn't in the mythical age, so couldn't get anything extra. And nobody's floating anything relevant at all. So for the statistics and graphs, we are going to be... Jesus, man, of course, look at the idols in here for Dexito. No, well, of course. No, of course. I mean, like, this is actually for how long? 16 minutes? 20? That's for 2 minutes plus. He's having some 13 villages idle at minimum. That's insane. That is actually fairly serious, and the others as well here. No, but just kinda showing the powerful pressure that he was under, and well done by Dexito in here. As for the civilians, that's gonna be there for inherently, and from the get-go you can see Killuminati doing pretty well in here. I don't like this Hades was too much behind. And for the Militarian, that's gonna be just on the numbers at the same time. That's gonna be relevant anyway, because Hades wasn't having Hippicons, so it was 2 pop anyway. So this is just gonna be all legitimately higher for Killuminati longer term. There were some interesting moments, of course, in here. Some chances for Dexito when he was having all the iron upgrades as above the opponent who was having only copper. So there was some kind of opportunity there, but unfortunately didn't manage to use it properly and well. You can see on the resources that's gonna be early prosperity in here for blue, just gonna making sure he's even jumping above the Hades in there for a bit. But Hades is in the starting moments, gathering with 3 villages favor for the Vaults of Erebus. So he's gonna be, of course, inherently a bit also lower than normal. Then we are somewhat picking up here, and actually you can say it now pretty close still for most of the game, just a few hundred resources here and there. And then it's gonna be peeling off for Illuminati a bit more when he is having the control of the game and able to do what he wants. But nonetheless, still, I can say it now, the difference is not too serious. 3,400 at the end. Favor, yet again, somewhat similar. But this time Dexito wasn't entirely focusing it as much. Okay, decentish advances. Maybe could have been even slightly later for the Hades, considering what map it was. But no complaint too much. Pretty decent Mythical Age. Let's not say that it wouldn't be. But, well, way too much of a control in there by Illuminati and he wasn't able to break it. GG. 11 Petsuchi. So let's give second victory to Illuminati. And let's see the game number 3. If they already have it, that is, seems like it. Maybe they are still picking the gods. What? So did we miss a game here? Might have actually missed a game. Somewhere. Yeah, we were starting from second game. They were starting actually early. Okay, so we didn't see game number 1. Okay. So right now I'm thinking if we should be doing it as well. If we should be already moving forward. Because there are already gonna be some other matches right now starting. It's gonna be right now the second round already underway. Gonna be like Garnath Grassengroom, Avely Miniati. Then there is, for example, Darthnox Husksape gonna be starting. Mosca Assem. Mosca Assem is a very interesting match. I kinda tempted to be right now doing also the first game in here. Just to be maybe having it all. Mosca, I'm just gonna start in. Okay, let's maybe try. Let's get the full match in here. Okay, let's therefore right now do the game that we missed at the very start. So it's gonna be the first one where Illuminati was therefore playing with the Aztecs on Ghost Lake. That's gonna be therefore Quetzalcoatl. He's gonna be chosen as the economical god. So we probably will be seeing a bit more Calpulis getting turned earlier into their special like forms and bonuses onto resources. And well, we're gonna be having therefore 1 wood and 2 gold, or nah, seems like it's gonna be actually wanting all gold. So Yeah, you need to be kind of careful because there are of course some innate priorities that you're gonna be wanting to and that are in the game. So you gotta be careful about those. No, and on the other side, that's gonna be Dexito trying to play with Kronos. Seems like it's gonna be Ghost Lake with only 1 gold. Pretty safe in here for the red player. Otherwise, we do seem to be having tons of gold mines anyway, 4 for each. So it will be on the high end, unfortunately, from my point of view. As you can see, this is gonna be the gold mine as well. We have seen from Illuminati in also a pretty safe spot. No difficulty in here too much. And, well then, we are going to be at this point heading into maybe looking at the relics. Don't have anything else to do here too much in the early minutes. Adamantine shingles will be there for the house hit points available. Grass cutting sword for the infantry movement speed. That is nice. Reyes crown for cheaper TCs. That might be coming into play. And then we do have blue crystal shard for some extra economy. That's also pretty nice and neat little bonus that you get for your economy. Apparently right now having the Aztec jingle here at the start. Haven't entirely heard of it as much. But temple down at about 2 minutes, so seems like it's gonna be some proper crash. Yeah. 3 minutes advance, and we are moving all the way top side. That seems to be a pretty safe spot. Looks like Illuminati is unfortunately going to be having the temple on, well, exactly this side he's gonna be attacked from. But is that going to be as much of a challenge for him and problem? Well, cost of course for the priest is also somewhat like a, almost like a priest, right? So who are we advancing with? Quetzalcoatl. Oh, that's the one with the drink, right? Yeah, God of Healing, and that's the one with the rabbits, if I'm not mistaken. What is actually Illuminati's settler doing so damn far away? Okay, haven't entirely noticed that too much, but he was also casting the god power on him, right? With the speed, so that he can be trying to escape. But that is a kind of like an interesting choice, so I'm entirely certain what it's all about. But let's go back to the base, where Illuminati is therefore going to be prepared with no temple so far, but he of course does have the warrior priest already in place. And we need a new temple because it's gonna be one of the major ways for him to defend with. As apparently agave is gonna be growing, so healing is gonna be up, and we're also gonna be getting some further food in here. Interesting, I was actually starting with 752 food instead of like full one. Oh, now it also kind of decayed? Is it just like a randomly decaying? So far doesn't seem to be really hitting anything extra in there or losing the resources. Because it's supposed to be an is pretty much like a peach blossom spring for Fushi, right? Seems like the warrior piece is right about now causing quite some mayhem in here into the early attempts of Dexito, who is though right about now through with the counter barracks, so he's gonna be apparently meaning this quite a bit seriously here with the Kronos. So we'll see if he's gonna be succeeding or not. But the rabbits are gonna be in play, and they do have what, 12 damage. There is actually quite a bit high damage overall, 240 is gonna be the hit points, or are gonna be the hit points, and the statistics 40-45 are pretty solid for them. And we have already a third one. What the hell is actually that attack animation? But well, no, that's kind of what rabbits can be doing. Okay, so I've actually right now increased the hit points, and we've also increased the damage. But right now, the Kero Ballista is gonna be absolutely slaughtering the Revitalosos here. And, well, can you somewhat heal them? Potentially by the agave here. Oh, okay, that's actually how it works. Oh, that's very interesting. It actually loses the health. Yeah. It actually right now loses the food on that. That actually replaces the health. Oh, that's an interesting mechanism. I didn't actually get it the first time around when I was seeing it on Wednesday. There wasn't too much of a healing done by that. So that's actually interesting. Makes sense. That it's not like a constant healing like the healing spring. That is a curious combo therefore. And good power in general. As you're gonna be therefore getting ready apparently to switch probably into the Ocelotls. Yes, Ocelotls are gonna be coming forward. As they are, well, so far seeming to be quite a bit of a staple in the classical age for the Aztecs. No end, well, okay, scouting right about now, well in there. So far gonna be having only 3 oracles. Not entirely the most ideal, but hopefully we'll be getting the Xito still a bit higher, as he's attempting Theft of Fire and already right now went with everything home, so it's gonna be time for... No, apparently not the TC yet. But more of a defensive build-up, because there's gonna be some threat that Killuminati is gonna be right now trying to counter-attack practically. As it seems like the Calpul is so far not upgraded into anything. It's a bit interesting that he's getting right now the craft workshop. Huh. That is actually kind of funny, because at this point he's gonna be getting from the wood 15% into gold. I wonder if it's on purpose. But that's something that really is to be considered, and it's also quite a nice bonus, of course. If you're gonna be out of gold with the Aztecs, then you obviously just gonna turn Calpuli into the craft workshop, and you're gonna be getting gold anyway, even from wood. So that is actually kind of infinite gold, right? So that's kind of a mechanism that I'm looking forward how players are gonna be taken care of and utilize it in their gameplay, as that does have quite a lot of potential there. And Dax Pickaxe for the Quetzalcoatl. And for the Kronos, well, did he actually get some upgrades already before? No, not yet. Not much of a time for it and resources either. And okay, this could be a bit problematic. If he's gonna be kind of heading from the wrong side, should be just like instead of jumping into them, should be trying to get beyond and then attacking to block the path in. That's way too impatient. But since you have actually healed this, the rabbits, they're gonna be having an opportunity to grow a 4th one. There he is. It's kinda actually interesting how it works, because I was thinking that maybe you're gonna be getting like a new myth unit with it, like a new couple. But evidently you just can like increase within. And is that some kind of like maximum? Through dealing damage or eating will grow in numbers, rapidly increasing damage and hit points. 336 by the way. So he has gotten like 50 hit points for the 4th grow, for the 4th rabbit. And the damage, he has gotten like 2.5 extra approximately, I'm thinking. Based on what it was last time with the 3. It's pretty neat. Especially the fact that you get the hit points basically like as a straight number, right? That is not a percentage, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna be having to look into that, and if it's the case. Because if so, then you can be basically getting like an insta-healing during battle, which is really useful and powerful. Okay, losing hit points right about now, he is. They're getting focused by the TC currently, I'm probably gonna get killed, unfortunately. Yeah. Kenson Totochtin is gonna be there for, or are rather gonna be dead game. There we go, all of them right now gone. And would be kinda nice maybe to be able to utilize them, since there are animals for for some extra food source, but yeah, to be just like a bit of an extra. Let's leave it maybe only up to the set animals in there. But second TC is gonna be also coming forward for Quetzal. Seems like he's gonna be currently having the game fairly well under control. Same on the villagers, however the army, bit better for Killuminati. And since we are already at 10 minutes, it's gonna be also getting a bit more important to keep check on the further gold mines. I mean, like the left one is kinda far away, so not likely to be picked by the Xito. Seems very much more likely he's gonna be somewhere here. You can see right now he's already waiting in there, the range scout. Probably having the vision of it, right? Yeah, he does. He is exactly waiting for it, Killuminati. Third TC. Yeah, that's not looking entirely too great for the Xito. Because he's getting ready with temporal chaos so that he can be time shifting a bit more, but it's probably not something that's gonna be saving him now. I'm not entirely expecting that. Occupatly fusions or infusions, fortifying settlers and human soldiers with extra regen, and also 10% hit points. That is an incredibly good upgrade. 20 favor, sure, maybe a bit steep for the classical, but not like too different to other upgrades like, I don't know, Sarissa or Aegis Shield or whatnot. 150 food. That's definitely something you can be able to pay for. 10% extra HP en masse for everything. That's a very good upgrade. Very godos in it, and we are going to be even adding some Tlamani Spearman. It's gonna be probably the first time I'm seeing him. So what does he have? 5 speed, 85 HP, 6 damage, 3.5 against cavalry, 40% melee resistance. Jesus, man, that's a lot. That is something like a basic Egyptian Spearman. Just the Egyptian Spearman is having higher bonus, I think, against cavalry. I mean, like 4 or 5. I think it's having higher. No, but well, at any rate, we're gonna be there for getting extra TC. Ah, and that's maybe actually why he was getting the temporal chaos, or what was it? So that he can be getting a bit more manors faster in here, and the TC will be a bit quicker. Wow, okay, sacrificing. Interesting. So, we're gonna be about now sacrificing all the possible animals. It's kind of funny how the graphics are weird about it. That's kind of like all I can say about it. As it seems like the heroic age is gonna be on the way for Koyol Shahukwe. That's actually getting what? Goddess of the Moon and Mystery, Devotion and Upgrades. Huitzilopochtli. Oh, that's the dead guys. That's kind of like the zombies or mummies, or kind of like the combination there. And that's the one with the stars. Falling stars, right? That was also a bit touched. And that was buffed in the Thursday patch. The Volcano was nerfed significantly. I think in this one was buffed a bit. Falling stars. So looking forward if you're gonna be seeing it. I haven't seen it in action yet. So you're getting Hyperion for the Kronos. Also medium infantry. And the Noble's Hut, no, well, just trying to block the path in if there is actually any, and apparently there is. Looking at what right now the Murmurs were attempting to do here. So all good. Army 26-28, so the same villages are gonna be much better for Killuminati. Like about 14 population, 15 population limit. But still, at this point, Exito has definitely just gonna bet upon this gold mine here, which seems like it's not gonna be entirely the good wager. But of course, he never had too much of a good choice for the top one either. Not like any of those options were too cool for him. So it's kind of loving the historical kind of connotations here of combination of polar bears and Aztecs. Well, that probably never happened. But of course. And Dax and Pickaxe, you can see right now plow, all kinds of associated upgrades with blue crystal shard, getting the Occupatli and the Magway cultivation as well. It's gonna be increasing there for the farming rates. You also get in farm food. Basically like finishing it. So that's basically the same as what we have for Polish in Age of Empires 2. And again, I'm thinking it's a potentially interesting upgrade for team games, where you will be building farms for your teammates and getting the food from that as well. I wonder if it's gonna be like a gameplay that you're gonna be seeing maybe in the Mythical and League once the Aztecs are available in there too. But there we go, we're gonna be heading into a Heroic Age fight. So you do have, of course, a Chaos, which is gonna be maybe a bit annoying in here. There we go, and we are also getting right now the Fallen Stars. So let's see if they're gonna be useful or not, as it seems like we're also gonna be getting one Huitzilopochtli out of it. Good, actually maybe even second if this one wasn't the one that we have gotten for free. No, we're definitely getting a bit more of them here. So nicely done, and that's gonna be in the end, and immediately resulting into instant destruction of Dixito's army, and with the extra 3 units in there, and they are without a timer, they are legitimately just the myth units you get. That is a good god power then. That is a very good god power, getting practically better minions. 520 HP. Jesus Christ. Oh, the god power with a bit of damage. And at the same time getting myth units into the middle of the fight. Yes, boss, that is a first decent idea, and second, pretty powerful, especially for certain cases like these. That's gonna be a god power you want to be timing with your... basically timing the advance and timing into some attack and casting it into the middle of a good fight. It doesn't have to be like a fight you will be winning otherwise, but just gonna to turn it around, like a game-deciding fight. That's a very interesting god power. That might be having important tactical uses. No, pretty cool, but nonetheless, well, I don't think that actually right now Dexito is gonna be agreeing too much with that kind of sentiment. You can see all kinds of funny upgrades coming forward here for Illuminati. For example, can stone Huitzilopochtli, improving right now the Tsitsi Middles. Since he's having so many of them, that obviously makes sense. We get in some further statistics upon them as well. And the stun, yes, Pulse. Oh yeah, the stun is gonna be so actually good here as well. And if you're gonna be using it properly, you're gonna be able to stun especially some myth units, for example. They are gonna be of danger to you. It's gonna be extremely... the stun is of course the more powerful units you fight against. So typically some elephants, archers, hippicons rather, it's gonna be good against. Maybe even the Kondari in here. But nonetheless, that's gonna be booking the gold, by the way. And all the way southwards, you seem to be right now having everything under control as well for the Aztec, and that's gonna be there for a victory for Illuminati in the first game that we didn't catch, but it was an interesting match, so I wanted to be having it all, and it will be there for a 3-0 victory for Illuminati and advance into the next round against El Matador. So let's quickly go through the statistics and upgrades that are gonna be a bit lower this time around, and then it's gonna be time to jump into the next round. You can see really not too many ups. Kronos will be at Hendax and Shaft, and Quetzalcoatl will be having some second upgrades, and Plow just on the first one, but he does have the more expensive. He's right now researching his Chinampas upgrade in the second age. Already quite high food for Quetzalcoatl, as you can see. Craft workshop still. Maybe could be one to, if he doesn't have the gold anymore, unless he was doing really the transition of wood into gold, could be turning it into the wood one. Seems right now this Scalpuli. He just wasn't using the bonus of having it 33% cheaper, the transformations. Probably could have and should have done that. Some of the idols here in the game. Something kind of like a bit, not constant, but common for the Xito here. This is already just like the crisis in the late game. At the same time, Illuminati, as he was focusing the military, you can see this cause himself quite some pain on the economy too. Nice theft of fire, so therefore valors upon the villagers. Yes, well, that's gonna be a bit confusing on the graph. That was just like sacrificing all the animals in there. And of course the 30C, so therefore peeling off on the wells. On the army from the start, pretty nicely up. Really the Kronos didn't really stand as much of a chance in there. As economically, as you can see right now, the Kronos is gonna be about 200 resources above. There's a fairly healthy advantage though. But then it's gonna be getting a bit closer. But even with the 30C, you can see right now how bit longer it took actually Illuminati to start finally getting away. You can see it now after that, some minutes, or minute or two, finally kicked off and kicked in. So what do we have here? About 6,000 resources at the end as a difference. And for the statistics, still a bit more favor for the Xito. So you can see now the favor gathering. I'm still having a bit of a hard time properly appreciating the favor rate for the Aztecs. It's kind of like depends on the fights. Not like Norse kind of, but in a different way. But I don't really have a feel for it, if it's in a good spot or not. Yeah, well, the results of course clear here though. So, GG, and I guess therefore, congratulations to King Clan Illuminati on his advance into the second round of Jerbot's Jaguar Joust. Congratulations and good luck there. For Kant, Kagenotoshi, Dexito. Well, definitely good games. We have seen an excellent match in here. And a hard opponent for the first round for sure. GG, and good luck further in any further games. Well then, so that was there for right now the first round match.